Hello everyone. Now next portion of the spinal cord is internal aspect of the spinal cord, or we can say internal feature of the spinal cord. In case of when we take the transverse section of the spinal cord, it's showing the centrally placed H shape or butterfly shape fluted column, that is called as a gray matter, and outside the gray matter there is a peripheral aspect situation of the white matter. So centrally gray matter and peripherally white matter. So that is the opposite feature of the central nervous system, means particularly the cerebral hemisphere. In case of cerebral hemisphere, there is a outside gray matter, then inside white matter, and again deep to this there is a presence of gray matter nuclei. While in case of spinal cord, gray matter is situated central aspect and white matter situated on the peripheral aspect. So this diagram showing the cervical segment of the spinal cord of the internal aspect. So there is a H-shaped gray matter, and outside there is a white matter, and centrally there is a presence of central canal. Now this gray matter is made up of neurons or nerve cells, neuroglial cells, and blood vessels. And this internal aspect of the spinal cord is divided into two equal half by the presence of this anterior median fissure and posterior aspect, posterior median septum or sulcus, into right and left equal half. Now this central H-shaped butterfly shaped gray matter is connected with each other via this transversely situated gray commissure, and around the central canal of spinal cord there is a presence of substantia gelatinosa centralis. Now this gray matter on its right side as well as left side is again divided into three horns. This is called as the anterior horn, this one is the lateral horn, and this one is the posterior horn. Anterior horn is related with the motor fibers, and lateral horn is also related with the communicating or association fibers, and posterior horn is related with the sensory fibers. Now outside the gray matter there is a presence of white matter. So in the white matter there is a three division occurs in front of the anterior horn and between the anterior median fissure and anterior horn. Location of this white column, that is called anterior white column. Lateral to the lateral gray column, that is called the lateral white column, and between posterior median septum and posterior gray horn there is a presence of posterior white column. Now between the posterior horn and lateral horn there is a presence of reticular formation within the lateral white column, and that is particularly can be seen in the cervical region and also in the thoracic region. Now this posterior gray horn is connected with the posterolateral aspect via this substantia gelatinosa, gelatin like substance, substantia gelatinosa, and that provides attachment to the sensory nerve roots, and then from that onward fiber goes to the higher center. Now there are changes occurs at the different segments of the spinal cord, that is due to the masses of the gray matter, white matter, and shape of the horns. Now first of all, when we take the section of the spinal cord at different levels, so that can be seen in this way, look like in this way. In case of cervical region, overall appearance of this cervical segment is it is large and oval in shape. In case of thoracic region, it is small and circular in shape. In case of lumbar region, it is larger but circular in shape. In case of sacral region, it is smaller one and circular to quadrilateral in shape. When we talk about the mass of the gray matter present at the different level of the spinal cord, in case of cervical region, particularly the posterior horn, it is long and slender one. In case of thoracic region, it is slender one. In case of lumbar region it is short and bulbous one, and in case of sacral region it is ovoid in shape and it is massive. While lateral horn that can be seen between thoracic segment 1 to lumbar segment 2, and that can be clearly seen here in this. In the remaining part it is absent. Now anterior horn, in case of cervical region it is broad and massive. In case of thoracic region it is slender one. In case of lumbar region it is shorter and bulbous in nature, and in case of sacral region it is ovoid in shape and massive in nature. So this is about the masses of grey matter. Now white matter, so as it can be seen in the diagram, white matter can be more in amount in case of cervical region, and thereafter it is decreasing. Now reticular formation, that can be seen only in the cervical region and up to T7 segment of the thoracic region, and thereafter reticular formation is absent. There is another one feature that is present, that is on the posterior lateral aspect, that is posterior intermedial sulcus, that can be seen in the cervical region, and in the thoracic region that can be seen up to T7 segment of the spinal cord, and thereafter it is absent. So these are the changes occurs at the different segments of the spinal cord, showing the different amounts of grey matter, white matter, and shape of the horns. Now structure of the grey matter, we discuss about the structure of the grey matter. So like other structure of the CNS, it also containing the neurons or nerve cells, neuroglial cells, blood vessels, and neurons here are mostly multipolar in nature. Now according to this it is classified in two ways, structural and functionally. Structurally it is again divided into two parts, Golgi type 1 and Golgi type 2. Golgi type 1 having a long axon, and that can leave the grey matter and also form the anterior nerve roots or that form the nerve tracts, while Golgi type 2 having the short axon, and that can remain within the grey matter as a intrasegmental or intersegmental neurons. Now functional classification of the grey matter of the neurons. Now first is the motor neurons. Motor neurons are mostly present between the anterior and lateral horns, and they form the descending tracts and form the motor roots of the spinal nerve roots. Now motor neurons are also again divided into two types according to the diameter, alpha and gamma. Alpha neurons are the larger one, having more than 25 micrometer in diameter, and they innervate the extrafusal skeletal muscle fibers. Second type is gamma, they are the smaller one, and diameter is about 15 to 25 micrometer, and they innervate the intrafusal muscle fibers. Second is sensory neurons, they are present mostly in the posterior horn, and they provide the sensory modalities, and they also form the ascending tract because they provide information from periphery to higher center, or sometimes they form the intersegmental tracts, so that connected with the different segments of the spinal cord within the spinal cord. Now third type is the interneurons, they are the smaller one, and they are present within the grey matter. They are also called as the association neuron because they connect the neurons of the anterior and posterior horns. They are also excitatory or inhibitory in nature, and they are mainly concerned with the integration of the segmental activities. So this is about the classification of the neurons of the grey matter. Now within the grey matter, these neuronal cell groups are arranged. So this diagram showing the neuronal cell groups in the grey column of spinal cord. So first of all, on the anterior aspect, this is the cell groups in the anterior grey column, intermediate grey column, and cell group present from apex to base into the posterior grey column. Now we discuss one by one. In case of anterior grey column, medial most situated group, so that can be here mentioned is E for entire, means medial group of nuclei are present throughout the length of the spinal cord, and they represent the or they supply the trunk as well as neck muscles. Then lateral group, This lateral group is present between C4 to T1 and L2 to S3, means that from the brachial plexus and lumbosacral plexus. In short, they innervate the muscles of both extremities, upper limb as well as lower limb. While central group form the two types of nuclei. One is phrenic nucleus that formed by the C3, C4 and C5 segment of the spinal cord, and another one is the spinal nucleus that is formed by the C1 to C5 cervical spinal segment and from the spinal root of accessory nerve. So, these are the cell group present within the anterior gray column. Next to this, within the lateral horn or intermediate gray column, intermediolateral and intermedial-medial nucleus is there. Now, intermediolateral nucleus that present between T1 to L2 or L3 segments. So, that means that from the thoracolumbar outflow, and that accounts for the preganglionic fiber of the sympathetic nervous system. While intermedial-medial nucleus present between only S2, S3 and S4 segment of the spinal cord. So, that from the sacral outflow, or we can say preganglionic fibers of the parasympathetic nervous system, and later on they merge with the sacral spinal nerves. Now, third group that is present on the posterior aspect, there are four longitudinal column are there from apex, starting from apex and then ventrally passes up to the base of the posterior gray horn. Now, first of all, substantia gelatinosa that is present on the apex of the posterior gray horn. So, here it also present throughout the length of the spinal cord, and that is concerned with the primary sensation like the pain and temperature sensation. It also containing the short Golgi guide 2 axons, and here there are interneurons are also present, or association neurons are also present. So, ultimately it concerned with the primary sensation like pain and temperature, and from that onwards sensory modalities passes through the nucleus of the spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. Now, anterior to the or ventral to the substantia gelatinosa there is presence of larger nucleus, that is nucleus proprius, that also present throughout the length of the spinal cord, and that portion is related with the proprioceptive sensation. And next to this there is a base of the posterior horn. On the medial aspect there is a presence of nucleus dorsalis, and that is present the segment between C8 to T2 or T3 segments, that is also called as a Clark's column. Now, this nucleus dorsalis is concerned with the both proprioceptive sensation, means muscle and joint sense, as well as exteroceptive sensation like pressure and touch comes from the trunk and lower limb. And lateral to this, on the base of the posterior gray horn there is a presence of visceral afferent column, and that is present between T1 to L2 or L3 segment as well as sacral segment 2, 3 and 4. So, that receives the fibers coming from the visceral afferent roots. So, this is about the nuclear cell groups present in the gray column of the spinal cord. Next to this, for the experimental purpose, there are number of nuclear groups can be formed, and that can be arranged by the Roman numericals, and that can be given by this lamina of the Rext. So, this it is divided into 10 different zones, or we can say 10 lamina. So, these lamina are according to the presence of these nuclear groups. So, first of all, Roman numerical number 1, that is related with the postero-marginal nucleus. Number 2 is related with the substantia gelatinosa. Number 3 and 4 related with the nucleus propriosus. Number 5 and 6 related with the base of the dorsal gray column. Then this Roman numerical 7, that is related with the nucleus dorsalis, intermediomedial and intermediolateral nucleus. Then number 8 and 9 They are related with the medial, central and lateral group of nuclei of the anterior gray column. And lastly, the number 10 is present around the central canal of the spinal cord. So these are the lamina of the Rix, or we can say 10 Roman numerical zones for the explaining of the different gray nuclear groups, gray matter nuclear groups. Next to this, white matter of the spinal cord. Now this white matter is present outside the central gray matter. Here it is present here. Now this white matter is white in appearance due to there is a myelination of the most of the fibers of this region, because this region containing the axon of the neuronal cells or nerve fibers. That's why it is a white in color. Now there are mainly three divisions of the white matter. Area between the anterior median fissure and anterior horn. This area is called as the anterior white column. Area between anterior horn and posterior horn, lateral to the lateral gray commissure. This portion is called as a lateral white column. And area between the posterior median septum and posterior horn. This area is called as a posterior white column. So in short, they contain the nerve fibers or neuronal cell axon. Now functionally, this white matter having three types of fiber are there: motor, sensory and association. Motor fiber mostly present in the anterior aspect. They form the descending fiber because they comes from the higher center, cerebral hemisphere, and finally they come out as a anterior or motor nerve roots of this spinal nerve as a descending fiber, and then come to the periphery. These motor fibers are present in the anterior as well as lateral horn cells and go to the motor roots of the spinal nerve. Second are the sensory. They are the ascending fibers and convey the sensory modalities to the higher centers. And also they containing the central processes of the dorsal root ganglia of the primary sensory neuron, and they relay into this posterior aspect as a sensory information, and from that onward they are relay into the higher center. Third type is association fiber. They are the originate and end within the spinal cord, and also they interconnect the neurons of the same level or different segmental level. So this is about the white matter of spinal cord. Now these nerve fibers form the different types of tracts within the spinal cord. These tracts suggest you about the function of the spinal cord. Function of the spinal cord is about execution of the simple reflexes and also the transmission of impulses to and from the brain. So in short, they provide passage of the multiple tracts, either ascending or descending or interconnected. Association tract. Now this diagram showing on the left side descending tract or motor tract, while these are the sensory or ascending tracts on the right half. First we discuss of the motor tracts on the left side. So starting from posterior to anteriorly. First of all, the lateral corticospinal tract or cross pyramidal fibers. Lateral corticospinal tract present within the lateral white column, and according to the name corticospinal means origin is from the cerebral hemisphere and termination within the spinal tract. So now what is tract? Tracts means collection of nerve fibers which have same origin, course and termination within the central nervous system. They are also referred to as fasciculi or column. So the name of the tracts are given according to the name of the tract. So first two words of the tract name, that is comes that from the origin, and last two words from the termination of the tract. For example, corticospinal tract, also reticulospinal tract. So that is the origin and termination of the tract. Now lateral corticospinal tract actually start within the opposite cerebral hemisphere. Then after entering within the brainstem, within the medulla oblongata, there is a decussation of the pyramidal fibers, or we can say corticospinal fibers, and finally within the spinal cord they are present on the lateral white column. So they are also called as a crossed pyramidal fiber, and they are concerned with the control of the fine skillful movement of the opposite half of the body. Same anterior corticospinal fibers, they are remain as uncrossed pyramidal fibers. Function is the same, but they are remain in the anterior white column. Next to this, medial to this, there is a presence of rubrospinal tract. So rubrospinal tract is concerned with the unconscious related movements, proprioceptive movements that arise from the red nucleus of the midbrain, and thereafter these fibers are also decussate like the lateral corticospinal tract, and within the spinal cord they are present opposite side and within the lateral white column and present medial to this lateral corticospinal tract. Now another two tracts are there, can be seen. One is within the anterior white column and another one within the lateral white column, that from the lateral and medial reticulospinal tract. Lateral reticulospinal tract is concerned with the thoracolumbar outflow, means preganglionic fibers of the sympathetic system, and that is related with the flexor response in relation to the skeletal muscles, while medial reticulospinal tract, that is related with the sacral outflow, or we can say preganglionic fibers of the parasympathetic nervous system. So that is concerned with the extensor reflex for the concerned motor neurons for the skeletal muscles. So in short, they form the thoracolumbar sacral outflowing tract, both reticulo, medial and lateral spinal tract. Now within the anterior white column, there is a presence of olivospinal tract, comes from the olivary nucleus of the medulla oblongata up to spinal cord. Then vestibulospinal tract, that is concerned with the unconscious position and balance, it comes from the vestibular nucleus of the pons and medial oblongata and up to the spinal cord. Then tectospinal tract, this tectospinal tract is concerned with the visio-motor reflex, concerned with the movements of the head and neck along with the eye. So they ultimately controls the unconscious kinesthesia. So this is the tectospinal tract, and antecorticospinal tract we already discussed, they concern with the control of the fine skillful movements of the opposite half of the body. So this is about the descending tract or motor tract. Next to this, within the right half, ascending tract or sensory tract. This ascending and descending tract are the anterior and lateral spinothalamic tract, anterior and posterior spinocerebellar tract, spino-olivary tract, then dorsolateral tract, and also the tract of the posterior white column, that from the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. First of all, lateral spinothalamic tract comes from the spinal cord up to the terminate within the ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus, and they are concerned with primarily with the pain and temperature sensation. And anterior spinothalamic tract concerned with the light touch, pressure, tickle and itch of the opposite half of the body, same opposite half of the body of the pain temperature for the lateral spinothalamic tract. Next to this, spinocerebellar, anterior and posterior, comes from the spinal cord up to the cerebellum. So they are concerned with the unconscious kinesthesia or proprioceptive fibers. Next to this, there is a fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. They are mainly concerned with the posterior white column, and it is also called the tract of burdock and tract of Gall. They are mainly concerned with the proprioceptive sensation and also the vibration sense, 2-point discrimination. So all these functions are due to the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cunator. So all these track from the ascending track or sensory. Now there are some interconnected neurons are also there, interconnected tracts, association tracts. They are present within the lateral white column. They are coma shaped tract or tracts of the dorsolateral aspect and also the visceromotor nucleus. So they form the association tracts. Now spinal reflexes. Now what is reflex? Reflex, it is an automatic response to a stimulus that can occur without any conscious thought. So this reflex from the reflex arc. There are two types of reflex arc, monosynaptic and polysynaptic spinal reflex arc. Example of the monosynaptic spinal reflex are the stretch reflex, and that is only presence of one synapse between afferent and efferent neuron. In case of polysynaptic spinal reflex arc, there are 5 components are present between afferent and efferent neuron. First component, that is sensory receptor, then afferent neuron, then interconnected neuron, interneuron, then efferent or motor neuron, and finally the effector organ, skeletal muscle. So this diagram showing the example of polysynaptic spinal reflex arc. Example are the withdrawal reflexes, or you can say Golgi tendon reflexes. Now we discuss about the clinical aspect of the spinal cord. There are some signs and symptoms occur due to the hemisection of the spinal cord, particularly on the left side at the level of T10 segment. That is also called as a Brown-Sequard syndrome. So it causes the, if left portion is involved, so it causes the same side, or we can say ipsilateral paralysis, that is spastic type of paralysis, and there is also loss of proprioceptive sensation. This spastic paralysis due to the involvement of the pyramidal tract, and loss of proprioceptive sensation due to the involvement of the cerebellar tract, spinocerebellar tract. Now on the opposite side, there is a contralateral loss of pain and temperature sensation due to the involvement of the spinothalamic tract. So these are the signs and symptoms of the Brown-Sequard syndrome. Next to this, syringomyelia. Around the central canal of the spinal cord and also the grey and white commissure are involved. So this is the area involvement in case of syringomyelia. Here there is a, there is a elongation of the cavities of the central canal of the spinal cord. So this area can be involved. So here what are the tracts can be involved? So here there is a cross as well as uncrossed anterior and lateral spinothalamic tract can be involved. So what can occur? So it causes the bilateral loss of pain and temperature sensation below the level of the lesion. In case of above the level of the lesion, there are chances of some sensation remain preserved. So that condition can be also called as a unconditional sensory loss. So this is about the syringomyelia. Next to this is the TAPS dorsalis. Site of lesion is on the posterior nerve roots and posterior white column can be involved. So here there is a degenerative lesion occurs in the syphilitic patient, particularly in the posterior white column and posterior nerve roots. So here what are the signs and symptoms occurs? Here there is a loss of, or we can say impairment of the proprioceptive sensation. Also 2-point discrimination vibration sense can be lost, and here there is also Romberg sign can be positive. Patient become ataxic. When the patient close their eyes, there are chances of fall down. So this type of sign symptom occurs in case of TAPS dorsalis. Now arterial supply of the spinal cord. This diagram A showing the anterior aspect, diagram B showing the posterior aspect. It is mainly supplied by the anterior spinal artery, 2 posterior spinal arteries, and segmental or radicular arteries. Now first of all, anterior spinal artery. It is a small branch arise from the fourth part of the vertebral artery and passes or runs on the anterior median fissure of the spinal cord throughout the length, and finally at the end it merge or communicate with the filum terminale. Posterior aspect, there are 2 right and left posterior spinal arteries. They arise either from vertebral artery or from the posterior inferior cerebellar arteries, and they run within the posterolateral sulcus present in the posterolateral aspect of the spinal cord. So in short, anterior spinal artery supply the anterior 2/3 portion of the spinal cord, and posterior spinal artery supply the posterior 1/3 of the spinal cord. Now third arterial branches are the segmental arteries. They are the spinal branches, or we can say radicular arteries. So there are 5 segmental arteries are there. Number 1 is deep cervical artery, then ascending cervical artery, then posterior intercostal artery, then lumbar artery, and lateral sacral artery. So these are the 5 spinal branches of the radicular artery or segmental arteries reach the spinal cord, and then through nerve roots it enter the spinal cord, and they communicate or reinforce the anterior as well as posterior spinal artery and form the 5 longitudinal arterial trunks. Now this anterior spinal artery on the anterior aspect and posterior spinal artery right and left side also divide into collateral branches, medial and lateral collateral branches, right side as well as left side. So 2 plus 2, 4, and 1 on the anterior aspect also form the 5 arterial longitudinal channels, and the 5 arterial longitudinal channels also communicate with the radicular arteries when they enter the spinal cord, or we can say segmental arteries, and ultimately these form the major arterial channel or trunk. Now how these spinal branches of the radicular artery or segmental artery enter the spinal cord? So in this way they enter the posterior nerve roots and then divide into anterior radicular artery, posterior radicular artery. Now later on these anterior and posterior radicular arteries communicate with the collateral branches of the anterior as well as posterior spinal arteries. Now this collateral branches passes along the surface around the circumference of the spinal cord and gives branches to the spinal cord. So that portion called as a vasa corona or arteria coronae. So this vasa corona gives branches to the superficial aspect of the spinal cord. So ultimately these 5 segmental or radicular arteries, anterior spinal artery and posterior spinal arteries form the longitudinal arterial trunks, and that supply the spinal cord as a whole. Next to this, venous drainage of the spinal cord. Before venous drainage, one thing is I forgot, that is at the level of T1 and later on at the level of T11 there is a larger segmental arteries can be seen, that is called as arteria radicularis magna. It is the larger one out of all these segmental arteries. So that can be seen at the level of T1 as well as T11. So these segmental arteries are 8 in number in case of anterior aspect and 12 in number in case of posterior aspect. Another common feature is segmental arteries are larger and less in number in case of anterior aspect, and smaller and more in number in case of posterior aspect of the spinal cord. So this is about the arterial supply of spinal cord. Now venous drainage of the spinal cord. So veins drain from the spinal cord via 6 longitudinal channels. So these are the 2 present on the anteromedian sulcus and posteromedian sulcus as a longitudinal venous channel. 2 present on each side of the posterior aspect of the anterior nerve root, that form the anterolateral longitudinal venous channel, and 2 on the each side of the posterior aspect of the posterior nerve roots as a posterolateral longitudinal venous channel. Now this venous channel communicate with the internal vertebral venous plexus, and from this vein blood is drained and finally passes through the intervertebral foramina, and they receive the blood from the another 4 sets of the veins. So these veins are the deep cervical vein, posterior intercostal vein, lumbar vein, and lateral sacral vein, or you can say ascending cervical vein. Later on, this venous channel also communicate above with the basilar venous plexus. So in short, this is about the venous drainage of the spinal cord. Now I hope you learn very well. Okay, now this is the end of the spinal cord. Thank you.